How's that for an introduction? Good evening, Broncos fans. Welcome to the Denver Bronco Roundup podcast. Hey, happy Randy Gratishar Day, everybody. Man, it's a Friday night. I'm Keith Brugman, by the way. We're brought to you by Rocky Mountain Sports Network. We're sponsored by Morgan Trinkets. I've got my good friend Trevor Salzman here, man. Like I said, it's a Friday night. We're in here talking some Broncos. It's Broncos country on a Friday night, man. We're loving it, man. How you doing, Trevor? Good to see you, man.
Doing well, Keith. I can't wait to get our podcast going tonight. It's been a couple of days, so ready to get started. And it's been officially a little less than a week since the draft, so kind of letting everything settle down and everything, and in a true evaluation of the Broncos roster and everything. So we'll be diving deep into that a little bit tonight. But can't wait to have our discussion and see what the posse thinks. And it's great to be here.
Yeah, man. Always love the posse. Always love your guys' comments, all your questions coming in, man. Man, there's just something about podcasting, man. I tell you what, we've been hanging out now for a few years with some of you guys. And, now we're through the draft and we really start to get an idea of what this roster might look like, right? We especially now that we have 2 years now with Sean Payton, George Payton, what's his plan? How's it coming together? It's a completely different scenario than I think we've been in a few years. I mean, again, we went through kind of the Nathaniel Hackett experiment and, just no consistency. And it doesn't matter. You go back through. It doesn't matter if it's coach, doesn't matter if it's quarterback. There just didn't seem to be any consistency. And now, for the first time, Trevor, maybe we're just starting to see a plan come together, right? Consistency come together. Everyone thought that George Payton was going to see the axe or see the shine of the blade of the axe in the light, right? In the moonlight, maybe, right? Thought he was going to be down the road almost immediately. A lot of people thought when Sean Payton came in, but George Payton and Sean Payton have seemed like they've put together a good relationship. They've got some consistency within the organization now, and we've got a couple years underneath us. So we're going to get into this draft, but I also want to talk a little bit about, even last year's draft, because now we're starting to see some momentum, and Sean Payton's all about these, long-term plans, 3-year plans that we keep hearing about and the like. So we're gonna start seeing this and see what see what happens when we when we do have a plan and not seem like we're just running wild every single offseason. Running wild like Michael Ronquillo running wild in here first thing off the bat, saying good evening, Keith and Trevor, giving us those orange and blue hearts and clapping it up, buddy. And we appreciate you, Michael. Michael's been a fantastic supporter almost from the get, man. I tell you what, man, he's a fantastic. And I've heard a few podcasters talking about this, guys. Keeping up with stars on Facebook right now with StreamYard is almost impossible. I've been trying to go back through making sure that I recognize anybody. So if I miss anybody tonight, man, it's a little bit rough trying to be the producer / host, but just please let, we want you to know that we appreciate you so very much. And like I said, I'll get back in those comments later and I'll make sure that I reach out and make sure that we're, conversating, if I missed out. So Graham's coming in there, giving us a big clap it up. Good evening, Graham. Good to see you, sir. Again, Miranda's coming in here with Broncos World Order, BWO. Look out for it. Here we come, guys and gals. So Pearl's coming in saying hello and good evening. Well, good evening, it's Pearl. And Pearl, as much as I would like to do a Kentucky Derby show, because she reached out to me, I don't know if it's going to be in the cards, but I know there's going to be a lot of people that are just ecstatic for this weekend. Mint juleps all the way around, right? I'm sure you'll have something special for yourself there. Minty, julepy. I'm not sure what you'll have, but Pearl's kind of an artist in the kitchen. So
those onion rings, the onion rings. Yeah, forget about those.
Goodness gracious, those winning onion rings. Remember when we started going on that winning streak and it was all about Pearl's onions rings? That's right. That's right. Graham's saying we got to be patient with Knicks, and yeah, I agree as well. We'll get into that as well. And I just want to say hello to Roy as well. Roy saying, good evening, Keith and Trevor. This year's draft grade consensus leg. This year's draft grades is a consensus. Legs, years, draft grade will be interesting to see. Oh, last year's draft grade will be interesting to see. Oops. Yeah, there it is. Last year's draft. Thanks, Roy. If I wouldn't have been struggling so much and would have read ahead on the comments, maybe I would have been a little bit better off. Appreciate you, though, coming in and making me struggle on the air. That's always fun. So, no, Trevor, I've talked, but what are your thoughts, man, as we start to get into this? And again, this roster that we've built this year, the roster that we built last year, I know that you want to get into some undrafted free agents as well, but lay it all out on the table, man. What are we getting into tonight?
Yeah, I just want to kind of dive deeper into the roster and just kind of give. I mean, we've had a week now since we've from the draft now. Just want to see overall perspective. Were the Broncos are they much better now than they were a week ago, and than even last season? How much better are they truly? I think we got so caught up into the draft, and that's great. I mean, that's what we want to do, right? At that period of time, but it's not till really now where you get to sit back and say, where do the Broncos get better at? Where did they get better? How much better? What positions? So now, I mean, we're a week away from the draft, post draft now. So it's just one of those things where want to dive a little bit into this roster and get a good look at what maybe the Broncos roster could possibly be doing as far as going into next year.
All right, man. What position group do you want to kick us off with, buddy? Let's get this conversation started, man, because there's a lot of them, and there's a few of these out there, man, that to me look like we're like overfilling and we're abundant in, and we don't know what the heck we're doing. And then there's other ones that, man, we could use a little depth still, in my opinion. But isn't that the case of every single NFL team? Always wanting a little bit better quality depth and better depth on each of their teams. So where are we starting, man?
Yeah, and we'll just start at quarterback. I mean, I think, again, this is a team that I think Bo Nix, I've said this for a while now, Bo Nix is a guy that I think can start day one. I don't think that he's going to need to sit the bench. And if he does, it's not going to be very long. He's 24 years old. He does everything Sean Payton needs him to do right now. I'd say Bo Nix is a guy from day one. I think he's a better fit for Sean Payton's offense day one. I don't think we ever fully got to see Sean Payton's offense last year work to its full potential because of Russell Wilson, and just him and Sean Payton just didn't work together very well, and they just didn't fit. So I think Bo Nix, we'll see a better fit at the quarterback position this year with Bo Nix there. I think Zach Wilson's chatter about Zach Wilson. I think Zach Wilson sells upside, but is that something? I don't think that's on the table right now for Zach Wilson to realistically be the starting quarterback of the Denver Broncos. I think he was more of a safety blanket in case they didn't get a quarterback, or a guy that Sean Payton thinks he can turn around as a really solid backup around the league, or if Bo Nix just doesn't pan out very well. So I still think Zach Wilson has upside, but as far as overall fit and what Denver's doing now, I think Sean Payton, he got his quarterback in the first round. It's kind of time for him to start winning now, and I think Bo Nix is that guy from day one that gives him the best chance to do so.
That's interesting, man. I'll be honest. I was perplexed for a long time about this whole, Zach Wilson being brought over. And I understand, hey, man, we talked about it a few times, having a little bit of security, having that security blanket kind of walking into, the draft, making sure that, you didn't walk out of there with, Jarrett Stidham, Ben DiNucci, and, some John Mancha coming in as a, undrafted free agent, invite, that couldn't be the plan, right? So I understand Zach Wilson. The one thing that I did get, a lot of people Sean Payton said, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, this just happened. Zach Wilson just happened. No, it didn't happen. He goes, that was 30 days worth of hard work trying to get to that point where we pulled off this Zach Wilson trade and gave up, a bag of chips and a couple crumbs in the bottom of another bag, maybe. I don't know, not much, man. it was a small time investment, but at the same time, this is the second pick in the draft. This is a guy that, yes, he didn't have the college experience that Bo Nix had, but he has NFL experience. Literally lined up behind an NFL offensive line, got the pressure from NFL edge rushers, felt the what it was like to have to throw into coverage against NFL cornerbacks. You know, it's a whole different experience, and we all talk about that adjustment from college to the NFL, and some people can't even make that jump, and some people struggle with it, and some people it takes a few years, and some people can jump right in. But who is Bo Nix going to be? And what does Zach Wilson bring to the table? Because Zach Wilson does bring a little bit to the table, and with a whole different atmosphere, a whole, different arena that he's playing in. You know what I mean? He's new coaches, wipe the slate clean, new city, East Coast to West Coast. It's completely different. He can start over, and he's the second overall pick. So I'm not going to go ahead and rule him out at this point. There is a path for Zach Wilson to at least start for the Denver Broncos. I'm not saying he's the long-term solution, but it might be like that. Hey, we'll give him 4 games and see how he kind of does out there. And Bo Nix is on the quick run in, and Zach Wilson could be on the quick hook, I guess you could say. In those type of scenarios. So for me, I think there is a path still for Zach Wilson. Am I wrong? I guess. Do you see that? Do you see it the same?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more of a path of Zach Wilson. I think the Broncos have realistically, they have not invested so much into Zach Wilson that I think that his path, I think, is the backup quarterback for Bo Nix behind Bo Nix. I think that's giving Jarrett Stidham competition. That's where I think it's more or less, let's push Jarrett Stidham and see what he can do, because we can cut him and save $5 million, on the cap this year if we cut Jarrett Stidham. Now, do I think Denver's gonna cut Jarrett Stidham? We'll see. Do they want Ben DiNucci? Do they want Jarrett Stidham? Does Macha make the roster? I mean, there's so many different questions after Bo Nix. I just think that Bo Nix is a older quarterback, and I think that he's a guy that I think could start day one. And I think if you put him on, not every team, but most teams, I think he would start day one. It's just he's not one of those guys at 21 years old like Drake May, where he can sit a couple years or a year per se at the longest, because that's usually where these quarterbacks end up sitting. His longest is usually a year. He can sit a year and be fine. Bo Nix, to me, it's just you're drafting him the 12th overall. He's 24 years old, and he's a guy I just think that gives Denver the best shot to win day one. And I think he's just a better quarterback than what Zach Wilson. Even Zach Wilson is. Zach Wilson's got, I think, high potential still. I still do think he's got that. 2 years removed from being the second overall pick, like you mentioned, Keith. But I think that Zach Wilson, problem with Zach Wilson is I don't think his accuracy is not where it needs to be. I think everything underneath, I'm not sure Zach Wilson can hit that underneath. Are we talking about the same problem with Russell Wilson that we had with Russell Wilson last year with Zach Wilson this year? I think he's a good deep ball thrower, but everything underneath that Sean Payton wants, I don't know if Zach Wilson can do that. It remains to be seen. We'll see at training camp what happens, but that's why I think Bo Nix would be Sean Payton's guy from day one, and George Payton has said so.
I'm not saying that, hey, Bo Nix is being looked at as the guy. That's the guy they want to get out there, right? But I'm just not going to discount the fact that Zach Wilson could go out there and he could show all the reasons and give all the reasons why he could end up at least starting. I like Roy saying that I'm on the right track. At least he thinks so, with Zach Wilson. At the same time, Graham's coming back in and says, Broncos country might not give Wilson 4 games. And that's true, man. If he goes out there and he's laying eggs in the first 4 games, man, that would also not be the best way to bring Zach Wilson around, right? That's kind of what he's already had that experience once in New York, right? To put him right back in that same situation may not be the best as well. But like I said, I just wouldn't rule out the possibility. There's a lot of things going in Zach Wilson's favor, whether it be, like I said, second overall pick, experience in the NFL, and again, here's this clean, fresh slate that he can just come in with and be the quarterback that Sean Payton needs to be if he needs to be it, and see if he can adapt to that style of play. So I'll keep moving along here, buddy, real quick. We got our good friend Kenny Kirkpatrick of the K&K Sports Show. He's coming in and saying, hey, fellas, have a great show. I'll watch later on. Having a major outage at work. My question for you guys would be a position and name you want to pursue now that the draft is over. For me, it's Bud Dupree. Have a great show, guys. So, yeah, let's see if we can answer Kenny. Hopefully, he's hanging on and hang on during that outage, buddy. I apologize. I mean, I can't apologize. It wasn't me. I promise. But I'm sorry that you're having those issues, man. Hang in there. Is there a position or a name you want to pursue now that the draft is over?
I think this roster is pretty well set right now. When it comes to injuries, then I think there's something to be said. But I think right now you just kind of got to roll with what you have with linebacker. I mean, you got getting Barton and Al Singleton. We don't know about Drew Sanders yet, if he's going to move inside or to edge. You're pretty stacked at edge right now with Cooper, Browning, Benito, and then you just drafted an edge rusher as well. So you just fix the defensive line. I'm not sure how much more Denver can do. Tight end room, you paid Troutman a decent amount of money, I think, for him to start. And you got to see what you have in Dulcich, wide receiver. Maybe they do something if Cortland Sutton is a guy they move off of. I'm just not sure that Cortland Sutton's a guy that they want to move off of, especially bringing in a rookie quarterback. I just can't see that. And I think with your running back room, you got pretty good depth there too. I have pretty good confidence that whoever you have on this active roster can handle a regular season well. And I think the offensive line too. Unless there's some injuries, I don't see the Broncos making any other signings right now. And I think you got your veteran cornerback and Levi Wallace. This roster, I think, is pretty set until we get into training camp, and hopefully, knock on wood, no injuries.
Yeah. Well, hey, we pretty much escaped that last year. I mean, don't get me wrong. When I was at training camp and I got to see it, I was unfortunate enough to see Tim Patrick go down, just like almost exactly like I saw him go down the year before. That was rough, and you're just thinking, oh my goodness, not this again. We're not going down this path again. And then, I mean, look at us. The offensive line stayed the healthiest of almost any offensive line in any rotation of anyone in the NFL last year. Injuries were pretty much non-existent. It was a huge turnaround. Yeah, we need to continue that. For me, Kenny, originally I was hoping for a Calais Campbell to maybe make a return because he wasn't signed back with the Atlanta Falcons. But again, Trevor, you kind of alluded to it. We went out and we filled holes, whether that be a John Franklin Myers, or we went out there and got Roach. And I mean, we just got this heavy rotation on the defensive line. Again, I don't know if it's possible. I still think that we could be better at safety. It would be beautiful to have Justin Simmons return, but I think he's, again, out of our price range. And there is a time that you need to turn the page and maybe see what you have in some of these recent draftees that we maybe even have on our roster as well that we were kind of talking about. But I'm going to head back to the chat just really quick. Kenny saying, yeah, computer and phone outage and camera outage. Well, geez, I'm glad that you can be on your cell phone because it doesn't sound like you're doing much else, man. Sitting in the dark, buddy. Take care. We have Michael Ronquillo saying Bo Nix needs to start from day one. That's exactly what I would love to see happen. Honestly, that's what I want to see happen. I'm saying there is an opportunity for Wilson, and if Bo Nix is struggling in any way in training camp, that certainly elevates Wilson's possibility. But on the adverse side of that, right? Yeah. What I really would like to see is Bo Nix just gleaming in camp, just looking like he has it all nailed, looking, passes coming out tight, everything's in rhythm, high fives all the way around in training camp every single day, and the defense is just in blunders, maybe trying to figure out how to keep up with Bo Nix. That's what I want to see, right? Yeah. It doesn't always work out that way sometimes too, so we'll just have to see exactly how it works out when training camp comes around. So yeah, I'm praying that the offensive line is going to be okay, says Graham. Yeah, that's another good one. Not the deepest position. So, and yeah, Pearl's coming in with some agreement as well. Go ahead, buddy.
No, I was going to say how. So I'm in agreement with you, Keith, in a way where, like, I think you don't just give Bo Nix the starting job. You have to make him earn it. If he earns it, then I think that's what's best for him. That's where I think this team should go. You have to earn your job. That should be for every player, honestly. You can't just be throwing players out there because that's they were good the year before or whatever. You got to have competition. I think that's what Denver's doing right now. The wide receiver room, running back room, the quarterback room as well. There's 2 former first round picks now in the Denver Broncos quarterback room right now. That to you that's competition, I think, as well. Now the probability of Zach Wilson coming in and earning the starting job, I don't want to say it's that likely because I think Sean Payton and George Payton are going to push decently well for Bo Nix to start. Because again, I think his age does play a factor in this, and I do think he is one of those guys that can step in and be ready now. And I think he fits Sean Payton's offense to a T, where Zach Wilson, Sean Payton may have to tweak his offense a little bit for Zach Wilson to succeed.
I agree. I think if you look at overall skill sets, there should be an overall favorite, right? I mean, it should be. It's the guy that you went out and got with your first pick in the draft that you haven't had a first round pick in how many years? You finally get one. You get that. You go out and people say you're even stretching for your quarterback at this point. That's the guy that you've chosen. That's the guy that should fit your system, and he does fit your system. By all accounts, Bo Nix looks like a great fit for Sean Payton's system. Got to get over to Phil McLaughlin, man, because I noticed I'm trying to watch everything, trying to be producer, guys, but Phil did come in. He dropped some stars, and he has a question for us, too. He says, good evening, Keith and Trevor. Now that the draft is over, what team in the West had the best draft?
Ooh, that's a great question. Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to say the Chargers. If I had to say a team, I think I really like how they're sticking pick with Joe. They didn't have to overthink it. I know there's a lot of people having trading back, including myself. But I think Harbaugh is really starting to build that roster up to not really necessarily compete this year, but definitely in 2025. Getting rid of a lot of those veterans. You kind of pull a little bit of a Sean Payton a little bit, getting rid of some of those veterans, getting younger players in there, building that offensive lineup. Man, that Chargers team, I think, is going to be something that the Denver Broncos are definitely going to have to, to worry about. And again, I'm not down on the Broncos draft class. It's not me saying that at all. There's wait and see with a lot of these guys. Other than Bo Nix, I'm not sure which other guy is going to have an immediate impact on this team. I like Troy Franklin, but you have Courtland Sutton, you have Josh Reynolds, you have Marvin Mims, you have other guys in front of him right now. Yeah. So is that something right now that he's going to play day one? I still think that he's got some time to develop. He's still young, 21 years old as a wide receiver. Jonah Ellis, another guy that I think can add more tools to his bag before I think he's game day ready. You have other edge rushers right now that are on the field that you have in front of him. So it's just like not down the Broncos draft class at all, guys. Not what I'm saying. I'm just like I need to see more. I'm not going to give him an A+ when it comes to the draft class. I give him a B because I think some of these guys are also guys that we could see in 2025 more so this year because of the depth that the Broncos have. And that's a good thing in a way.
It is a good thing. You got to draft sometimes for the replacements that you see or the holes that you see on your roster in the future. And that might very well be kind of what we're seeing. Doesn't matter if you don't think Courtland Sutton's not going right now. How many more years is Courtland Sutton going to be here? Will we need a replacement for Courtland Sutton? Was this a high wide receiver draft class? Did you maybe go out and make sure that you fulfilled those holes, whether it's coming up this offseason at the trade deadline, next offseason? Who knows? You know what I mean? But Courtland Sutton might not be that long-term solution, right? But I was going to be right in line with you. I think the Chargers did very well. Joe Alt is probably going to be a Pro Bowler and an all-time pro and possibly wear one of those gold jackets in the future. He's projected that well, There's only a few times that, guys are taken, offensive line are taken right at the top of the draft like the Chargers did, and nobody blinks an eye. Nobody blinked an eye. No one gave criticism. No one said that's a bad pick. No one said it was a reach. It's an offensive tackle, and everyone's like, yep, check, good. So a lot of names that we also talked about, Ladd McConkey, just an absolute, shine. He just shined out, whether it was at the Senior Bowl. Had a fantastic pro day as well. Ladd McConkey was great. Goes kind of back to the well. Junior Colson, linebacker out of Michigan, but something they needed, and Junior Colson's a great place. And I know our good friend Jody, sometimes co-host on the Denver Bronco Roundup, would also say that he was pretty happy that they picked up Cam Hart, defensive back in the 5th round as well out of Notre Dame. So, overall, the Raiders didn't do bad. The Chiefs, for where they're picking, they did quite well. You know what I mean? They're at the very back end of the draft because they keep winning Super Bowls. But I saw a lot of disappointed Raiders fans with Brock Bowers just because it was a double up at that position for them. They really already have a tight end. Yeah. So, how many do they need? Don't get me wrong, could be generational, but when you're talking about filling immediate needs and maybe getting impact players, the Chargers did really well. So that's where I'd put my 2 cents as well, man. We kind of got a little bit off topic there, but that's all right, man. That's all right.
Well, and the quick point of the Chargers, they've doubled up on tackles. I know we'll get back to Broncos here in a second, guys, but they have Joel and Rashawn Slater now. So that's those two, very good Pro Bowl type caliber tackles right there to deal with, So that's just really helps their offensive line even more. So that's why another reason why I did pick the Chargers, because I think they are building something there, but that's to be concerned with. But again, that's not sound down the Broncos class at all. I just think that other than Bo Nix, those guys are like more long-term pieces than day one starters. We'll see what they do in training camp, but as of right now, that's just kind of what I see.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I don't know when we'll get the receivers, but Graham has a good comment as far as, drafting receivers in the past. Miranda, appreciate it very much. Broncos, heck yeah. Broncos did shake my head. I'm not really sure what we're shaking our head about or did, but I appreciate Miranda's been saying she's brought some viewers over. And by the way, like, share, subscribe, guys. We appreciate that a ton. We've been growing tons and tons and tons, whether it's the Rocky Mountain Sports Network, whether it's the Denver Bronco Roundup. Man, we appreciate you guys a ton. We got Settle the Scores, fantastic Rockies show that comes up every Friday at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Check out RockyMountainSportsNetwork.com. Check out Settle the Scores. Check out all our Denver Bronco Roundup shows because we're on Tuesday and Friday at 7 p.m. But appreciate you giving me a little leeway into a plug there, Miranda, very much. We appreciate everyone that comes in and helps us out. Trevor, where do we want to go next? What position?
Let's go to, I think running back is something that we definitely need to talk about here. This is we know that what Denver did in the draft got estimated. They brought in the undrafted, what's his name? Undrafted running back that they brought in. They signed. I can't remember his name now. It's not getting to my head, not coming to me right now. Anyways, I think running back is definitely a position where actually Blake Watson, that's the guy I was thinking about that came to me now. I think that's a position where I think Denver added depth, but I think that's where we'll see the most competition at from an overall roster standpoint. I just think with the lack of production last year, you have to really bring in more competition. I think that's what they're going to do. Estimate is a guy that I said I think is more, maybe not necessarily this year type of player because he's 20 years old, but a next year type of caliber player that could definitely impact this roster. Javonte Williams is on the final year of his deal this coming season. Maybe that's a guy that replaces a guy like Javonte Williams if the production isn't there from Javonte. But I just like what Denver's doing, bringing in depth at the running back position because, Keith, remember in past podcasts when we were doing post games and stuff like that, we talked about the running game and how that's been a problem for Denver. Adding these running backs, that's really I think it's really going to help Denver get better as far as running the football. And you really got to get the best running backs out there because as much as we talk about Bo Nix throwing the ball around, how Sean Payton wants to do that, you got to have a good quality running game. And Denver did not help out Russell Wilson last year. A lot of games, heck, in a row, they were running under 100 yards a game. And it's just like, that's not going to get it done. I don't care who your quarterback is. You got to run the ball efficiently. I like what Denver did as far as overall standpoint. I like where the running backs room is at. I think they have good quality depth there. Now I just think it's more of let's see who can fight it out to get to be a starter or to back up Javonte. I think there's some guys' jobs on the line. Samaje Perine is a guy that comes to mind as well. I mean, he's really going to get tested, I think, this training camp. And, and I think that's something that we got better keep an eye out. Javonte, I think Javonte possibly as well, but I think Sean Payton does like Javonte Williams a lot. He liked him enough to put him out there for most of last season. So some of these veterans are really going to get pushed with some of the rookies that they brought in. And McLaughlin having another year. We'll see how his offseason went. Did he get better as far as pass blocking this year? That's been something that he needs to add to his game. So I like the depth and the competition in the running back room, and I think that's going to be one position where Denver's really going to get and really going to be pushing for competition this year in training camp. It'll be fun.
I agree, and I expect these running backs to be utilized and utilized completely differently than we've seen in last year. I mean, again, this should be a quick read passing situation. How many times do we see that running back jet out of the backfield or go out of the backfield and he's open, but Russell Wilson wanted to hold on to it, wanted to see if something developed downfield, maybe took a sack, maybe didn't take a sack, maybe even rushed for a few yards or got a completion off late for 5 to 7 yards, but that's not how Sean Payton wants to run this offense. It should be a very, very quick offense, especially when it comes to the passing game situation. So how these running backs are going to be able to develop under that type of situation, underneath an offense that's running in the way that Sean Payton wants to, let alone that you add people in like a Watson that could possibly be a replacement, like an Estime that I think is going to be key on those first and second down situations. And let's face it, a play action to Estime with him being able to take up a blocking situation, pick up a block is an ideal situation as well if you want to pass in those first and second downs. So we'll just see how it all plays out. But yeah, this running back room, it continues to get stacked, and there's going to be some big decisions that'll have to come when we get to the end of training camp and we start making some roster decisions and decide who goes on to that practice squad and gets exposed and the whole 9 yards. There might be some interesting decisions and some decisions that maybe we didn't see coming necessarily. A lot of people were very, very excited, for instance, on a Jaleel McLaughlin. And for me, I think it's going to be difficult for him to make this roster. He's going to be pressed with all the competition that's been brought in. You pointed out to me, buddy, but we got to get over to Sean Ward. Sean Ward says, hello from South Dakota. Question, do we know if Ioma Awazarike is coming off suspension? Go Broncos. Hashtag Bo for sure. And Sean, appreciate you jumping in and dropping some stars. We really appreciate that. We keep growing and you guys keep helping by doing nice things like that for us. Do you have an update on Awazarike?
I believe it's in June when he's re-eligible to join the roster again. I believe that's when he's eligible. So I do, and that's one of those questions this year that's I think it's been kind of under the radar. Is Awazarike, if they didn't expect him back or they didn't like him enough, why is he still on the roster? They added all this talent this year with Roach and whatnot. Still have DJ Jones, so I think they still have plans for Awazarike. He's not been released yet. So I think he's supposed to come. I think he's supposed to be re-eligible to join the team, I think, in June. But I mean, he would be a guy that they need production from. If they can get production from a guy like Awazarike and really push for competition, that will help this Broncos defensive line even more. They need help on the defensive line. I like what they've added this year, but I don't think anybody. Well, I'm not saying not anybody, but I think there's positions to be open there, and the better competition, the better off the Broncos will be going into next year.
Hey, this is a guy that Sean Payton was really, really high on, and to the fact that when this suspension came out, he pretty much called it a bunch of horse manure and wasn't really happy that Awazarike got the suspension. That says a little bit of something. That says that that he has an opportunity, I think, to come back and compete on this roster. I also think, again, when it comes down to some of those roster decisions, if you need to expose someone like Awazarike to the practice squad because you felt like you had enough depth that you wanted to keep on the 53-man roster, he might be very much not only eligible, but kind of safe to kind of stash there. A lot of these guys that have been coming off the suspension have been immediately cut by their teams. So Awazarike would be on the outside as far as the percentages are concerned, as far as coming back to the Broncos. It looks like you have an update as well, Trevor, or another point?
Yes, I do. So Awazarike will be eligible to petition for reinstatement on July 24th. I just want to get the specifics on that. And the charges were dropped dropped against him as well. So that's a good sign for him to be re-eligible to join the roster this coming season. So I definitely wanted to update everybody and get an exact date on that for everyone.
Yeah. I think we kind of hit this, but is Javonte on the short leash for Graham?
Yeah, I think he is. I think he is, but I think he'll be starting running back still. I think Sean Payton still does like Javonte, and I think you have to give him another season or so to come back from that major injury, right? I mean, that's just it was a major injury for this guy. Could have been a career-ending injury for him, and he came back and he's fought his way back. More competition, I think, in the running back room will help and will push Javonte. But I think that almost in a way that's good for Javonte. Need to push Javonte to be better for this team going forward as they need to get that running game going for Bo Nix.
Yeah, I agree, man. It would be. It's always bad when a guy kind of loses a job to injury, and it feels like this would almost be the case if Javonte for some reason was on the hot seat or was not brought onto this roster, or they found a way to trade him, or there's a lot of different opportunities. There's a lot of chatter about maybe Javonte going to the Cowboys before they brought back Zeke, and so just things like that. It would, you hate to see that happen, but again, they have a ton of depth here, man. They have an absolute ton of depth. So Patrick Wiltsey coming in says, I'm presently surprised. Really looking forward to this year. I'm presently surprised by Lion Coffee and their amazing vanilla macadamia. Oh my goodness. I've never liked flavored coffee, but check out Lion Coffee, guys. Lion Coffee. And speaking of which, I should get to our official sponsor, guys. If you haven't checked out Morgan Trinkets, you're doing yourself a disservice. Simple as that. Morgan Trinkets is your headquarters for Southwest Jewelry, Southwest Pottery, and Estate Gold at wholesale prices. 33 years, almost 34 years ago, they started up. Once a nationwide company, now they just focus on southern Wyoming, northern Colorado. They do numerous shows. Check out Morgan Trinkets at on Facebook to check out where their next show might be. The other nice thing is if you head on over to Morgan Trinkets, you can see a lot of their wonderful jewelry. You can message them and say, hey, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that. They have an extensive inventory they can dive into and find that perfect gift for you. All shipping is free over $50. They do have sterling silver that starts at $10 all the way up to $2,000. All their gold is all real gold, 10, 14, and 18 karat gold. Check out Morgan Trinkets on Facebook today. That's Morgan Trinkets for your headquarters of Southwest Jewelry, Pottery, and Estate Gold at wholesale prices. Man, I'm telling you what, Morgan Trinkets just put up this beautiful turquoise jewelry today, Trevor, man. Beautiful set, earrings, necklace. Like I said, new inventory every single day. All our viewers, all our subscribers should check them out. Beautiful stuff. And looking forward to hearing where their next show is. But right now, I'm looking forward to hearing what the next position group you really want to hit, Trevor, is.
Yeah, I think we need to probably better double up a little bit because we're starting to run a little short on time.
Absolutely, bud.
So we'll go wide receiver and tight end here, of course. Obviously, Denver added Troy Franklin in the draft. They got Veli as well, Sean Veli. So, just overall standpoint, obviously they didn't add anybody in the draft as far as tight end, but you brought back Adam Troutman, you brought back you have Greg Dulcich coming back from injury. So just kind of quick thoughts on wide receiver room, and again, Troy Franklin is a very intriguing wide receiver for Bo Nix. I think it's something I do like that they went up and got him in the draft. I was petitioning for that pretty hard on day 2 for them to go up and get a guy like Troy Franklin. I think this is a guy that's got a lot of upside as far as a wide receiver, young wide receiver with Bo Nix. But I'm not sure how much he sees the field this year and the whole Courtland Sutton thing. Of course, Mike Klis kind of put that a little bit to bed this week, saying that the Broncos are going to keep Courtland Sutton right now. He is in their plans right now, so things can change. But I mean, at least he's in their plans going forward. Tim Patrick as well. I mean, the contract's a very low cost contract. We'll see what Denver does. I think Tim Patrick's not just going to be able to get a starting job. I think he's going to have to really compete for that as well. So I think that's something to definitely keep an eye on. Josh Reynolds, of course, they went out and signed Josh Reynolds this offseason. Sean Payton has talked about getting Marvin Mims more involved. So overall standpoint, Franklin is a very intriguing prospect, but The wide receiver room, I like the depth that they got with Josh Reynolds. I think that they added that as well. They're able to keep Tim Patrick as well. So just overall standpoint of the wide receiver room, man, I just think the Broncos like them getting more depth and like to see them some of these younger guys also get involved, find ways to get involved, and push these veterans for starting jobs.
Yeah, the wide receiver room for me is just stacked, stacked. I mean, there are going to be names that we saw contributing last year that probably will not be on this roster. There's no way to get all these names on the 53-man roster that we currently have in the wide receiver room. Simple as that. And we're going to see these new names come in. They're going to stick. I mean, we're not going to like wave a Franklin. I can't see that. You know what I mean? Vele is probably going to get a chance, whether it be on the practice squad or on the 53. But again, these practice squads fill up quick too, man. It's not an endless supply that you can just stash there either, so it'll be interesting when you start talking about your Brandon Johnsons and your little Jordan Humphreys and your Jalen Virgil and all these different names that that we kind of are used to seeing. Those names are going to maybe again kind of float in, float out. That tight end room is kind of remain the same. And we kind of need to see some step ups from some of those players. I was big on, hey, it's part of the passing game. It's part of what Russell Wilson is and the way he was operating, at least in Sean Payton's offense. It seemed like he never really looked at those tight ends or even sometimes those first option running backs as options. So. It'll be interesting to see if maybe even a different quarterback helps turn the page. But I really think that, these tight ends do need to step up in a few different ways. Kroll might be an interesting option. That's a guy that kind of came on late for us last year. We didn't see a whole lot of him. But at the same time, if Dulcich isn't that guy, if he's struggling, if he's not looking good in training camp, because I'll be honest, guys, I saw him in training camp last year. He did not look like the guy from the year before. Simple as that. He didn't. I mean, I can't be out there reporting this stuff. Sean Payton will be coming knocking on my door, especially under his regime. But Greg Dulcich did not look good in camp, and lo and behold, he doesn't have a great year. Imagine that. So if he looks good in training camp, maybe we see a different Greg Dulcich. But if not, we'll have to have some other guys step up around him. You know what I mean? We need a receiving tight end in this group, and that's one thing that I think that this. We didn't address in the draft. We didn't do it in free agency. Is someplace that we really need to see some production out of. So,
yeah.
Go ahead, buddy.
No, I was just going to say, we all know that Denver signed Adam Troutman to 2 years, $7.5 million contract. So I do think Troutman's the guy that is probably the leading tight end right now. I will say, I think Dulcich is going to have to earn it. I really do. I think Troutman's the guy that maybe that could be that vertical threat tight end, but he's a solid tight end. I think he will help in the pass blocking wise, and I think he's a guy that can catch passes downfield. And I think adding a quarterback to this room that can run Sean Payton's offense a lot better than Russell Wilson did, I think will help out a guy like Adam Troutman as well. So I think Dulcich is a guy that obviously Denver would want to see the field, but he's going to have to earn it. They're not just going to give that to him. This is a guy that's had major injury problems, struggles to see the field. You have to be available for your team, and you have to stay healthy. This is a big year. Two players that are former George Payton draft picks that are needing to have big years. That's Javonte Williams and Greg Dulcich. Both those guys, I think, are on the hot seat this year as far as needing to have really solid seasons for Denver this year.
Yeah, I agree, man. It's a lot of faith, as Jody's saying, that we're putting in Greg Dulcich to stay healthy. And I agree, but I think you're right. I think there's a lot of faith in Adam Troutman. I think we're not just putting all our eggs in one basket and hoping that this is the case. We're not going to be stuck there. I think we're going to be prepared to move and go into a little bit different direction. So, absolutely, man. I like I said, wide receiver, stack, tight end, a little bit concerned. We'll have to see exactly how that ends up playing out. Excuse me. Pardon me. Miranda's wondering if anybody else is an extremely diehard like she is. Yeah, you got a few in here, Miranda. I can tell you got 2 on the screen right now, and a ton in the posse, But we appreciate you coming in here and stoking it up for us. So yeah, here you go. Here you go. Michael's coming in and saying, yeah, he's a diehard from Tucson, Arizona. Go Broncos country only. Absolutely, man. Man, I know we don't have a ton of time. I know we need to kind of wrap it up. We could probably talk about every single position group, but that might take all night long. So,
Yeah, it would.
is there a different is there one that we need to get to? Is there a different direction we want to go? I know we had a few different topics that we wanted to get into tonight.
No, I think that we could probably save the defensive side of the ball for maybe next Friday. Because we have some time to break down this roster a little bit, and I think it's worth giving our Roundup royalty fans a great in-depth discussion on. So I definitely don't want to skip positions here. No, just quickly, offensive line. That was the last one that obviously we would go through. Not a ton to talk about here. Just with Cushenberry being gone, of course, that's going to hurt Denver, I think, to a degree. But I think having Forsyth and Wattenberg and some more competition. They brought him in as well, so they have some competition at center. I think Forsyth, to me right now, with the Bo Nix connection, is probably the guy to beat at center, but I do expect some competition, real competition at center this year. That, to me, would be the only real question mark, and kind of a hole from last year's team with Cushenberry being gone.
Yeah, I was a Cushenberry fan. You know that, man. Yeah. I was like, we need to find a way. We need to sign him. It needs to happen. And then I saw the contract that the Tennessee Titans gave him, and I went, no way. We can't do that. That's not in the books. That was never in the books. I understand. Hey, and hats off to him, man. I'll be honest, getting to meet a few of these guys at training camp. Lloyd Cushenberry, soft-spoken giant, man. Easiest way I can describe him. Very soft-spoken, very, very just outstanding gentleman to meet. You know what I mean? He sit there, he'll converse with you. You know what I mean? He's a student of the game. Any offensive center has to go out there and he knows as much of the offense as just about anybody, maybe outside of the quarterback, right? So this guy is dialed in. He dialed it in last year. He got a big contract. He's off to Tennessee, and I'm wishing him the best. But yeah, that does leave a big hole. And Alex Forsyth, not a top draft pick, kind of came off late. What was it? Seventh round, sixth round, seventh round?
Yeah.
So, he has a lot of work cut out for him. Those guys don't fall into the seventh round just because they're great players and we get lucky, right? So that guy will have some work cut out for him. He'll have to step up, and luckily, hopefully, we have put some of those great pieces around him. Whether it's the Quinn Miners and the Powers, and now we got McGlinchey and we have Garrett Bowles. But I thought a great question came up, and it was from our sometimes co-host and great commenter. It was Jody. And we were kind of talking about undrafted free agents a little bit as it is. And this is a big one. We kind of talked about it a little bit on our last podcast, but can Frank Crum be a long-term option at left tackle? Have you had a chance to look at Frank Crum? And what are your thoughts on him maybe being the replacement for Garrett Bowles, as we've been kind of on Garrett Bowles' watch now for a little while, it feels.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that he's got upside to him to a degree, but it's just like that whole Alex Palczewski thing. I mean, we've hyped this guy up, I think, for over a year. It's just like, I know we have Garrett Bowles, Mike McGlinchey. It's just, obviously you have Palczewski in there too, so we can't forget about him as far as being an offensive lineman the Broncos are developing. We'll see if Crum can make the roster. I think that's something that to be determined if he's a long-term option for Denver. I still think bearing Garrett Bowles signing an extension, I still think tackle would be something where Denver can absolutely look at in the draft next year. I really think that's something where they could look at, as far as maybe early as the first round. They'll have all their picks next year. So I know we just got over with the 2024 class, and it's way early to be talking about the 2025 class, but I like some tackles in that class where I think might be somewhere where Denver could possibly look at if they're needing to protect Bo Nix, and they do. And with Garrett Bowles going the final year of his contract, I think that's something they absolutely look at, bearing a Garrett Bowles extension per se. I'm not ready to put Crum on the roster right now. Again, I think he's got upside. I think he's very athletic. He's big tackle. Palczewski's there as well. It'd be an interesting battle there. But as far as being your starting left tackle, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. You want to protect your quarterback at all costs. So you don't just want to throw anybody at left tackle, because left tackle is one of those top positions that are you need the most. You really need to protect your quarterback, and the last thing you need is Bo Nix to go down with an injury. When he needs to play this year, you need to see Bo Nix for a full season.
That would absolutely, man. We'd love to see the best out of Bo Nix, and we don't want anything to happen to this offensive line. I think Garrett Bowles obviously gives you the best option, but I'm a little bit higher when it comes to Frank Crum. I like him a lot. I think I can't believe that he didn't end up getting drafted. I see a lot more potential, and maybe it's because of the small school and you get overlooked, and you're in Wyoming and you're in the West and you're nowhere near any of these big schools or any of these big programs. And so, yeah, these guys sometimes fall through. Let's keep in mind, Quinn Miners didn't come from a big school either. So maybe Frank Crum has that option of developing into that. But I kind of like what you were saying. Between Palczewski and Frank Crum, we'll have, I think, a better swing tackle option to be on this roster at any given time than we've been in a few years, because Palczewski's been talked up. So if he's as good as we've heard, right, then he should come in and he should be pretty good. And like I said, I like Frank Crum as well. Phil came in just really quick. He dropped a few more stars, and I wanted to get to this. Go ahead, buddy, unless you wanted one more point on that.
No, I was just going to say they brought in Matt Pert as well this offseason, so there's more depth and more competition. That's why expectations are low with Crum right now. Yeah, of course, I would love for him to make the roster. He's got potential, but he's got to put the work in before I'm ready to say, can he be a long-term option if the Broncos move off Garrett Bowles?
Pert, I kind of forgot about Pert, man, and that's a good point, because here's a guy that comes in, has some a little bit of experience as well. So now just another guy that's in that competition room, trying to fight it out, trying to battle it out, and get a position, somewhere on this roster, right?
And Phil, he's young too, and he's like 26 years old, so he's young.
Yeah, exactly. You're not bringing in the old wily veteran who's few snaps away from maybe putting in his retirement players, right? Retirement papers. Sorry. Phil, like you said, it dropped some stars. We'll have to wrap it up here pretty quickly, guys. But he says, we got a tight end, we got a receiver. Now do we have a quarterback that can find them? Let's go ahead and let's answer it straight up, man. What we were talking about a little bit earlier, we're talking about upgrades last year versus this year. What does Bo Nix potentially give us? Because let's face it, Russell Wilson won a Super Bowl, went to a lot of Pro Bowls, put up some amazing stats, was fastest to 700 wins or however many wins he had. You know what I mean? It's like not 700, that'd be crazy. But again, fastest, one of the fastest winning quarterbacks in NFL history. There's a lot of things to be said about Russell Wilson. In fact, the Pittsburgh Steelers are pretty happy about the opportunity to have Russell Wilson pilot their offense, man. So what are we getting with Bo Nix that we didn't get with Russell Wilson, especially when it comes to the tight end wide receiver?
Yeah, with Bo Nix, you get a guy that will get the ball out quickly. Again, he talks about processing more than any rookie quarterback I've heard talk about processing. That's something he gets. His eyes just light up. Him and Sean Payton are going to be best friends, man. Sean Payton's just going to go and invite Bo Nix over to his house, and I swear they're just going to have a conversation until who knows what time. But no, I think with Bo Nix, you're getting a guy who can see the middle of the field better. I think he's a guy that is not going to force the ball into it. Doesn't want to make mistakes, of course. Again, and you want a comparison. Look what he did at Oregon. Didn't throw a lot of interceptions. But he's a guy that just he's gonna see the field a lot better than Russell Wilson. A lot of times with Russell Wilson, he wants the D ball. He wanted to be the hero. Bo Nix is the guy that I think he understands what his role is going to be. He's not going to try to always have the hero ball be his game. It's not been his game. And that's what he was doing at Oregon. He's a guy that will get the ball out quick to whoever. And some say, well, that's easy. It's not easy to do that. I've seen throws from Bo Nix that he got to throw at a specific angle to get it to a player, and that isn't easy. You can't just throw any ball to any, if that's a running back, a wide receiver, even if it's a screen pass. He has that knowledge to know that. And Bo Nix is a mobile quarterback as well. You're not losing the mobility. I think if anything, you might be gaining a little bit more mobility with Bo Nix as compared to Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's getting up there in age, and he's a guy that his legs probably not as strong as they used to be. Bo Nix can still be a mobile quarterback as well as being a guy who can get the ball quickly and see the middle of the field and get the ball in the middle of the field where Russell Wilson wasn't able to do so. Crossing routes, You're going to see that a lot more with Bo Nix than you ever have with Russell Wilson and Sean Payton offense.
Yeah, I agree, man. This is a guy that reads quick. He gets the ball out quick. And, to your point, everyone says, well, all he did is throw these short passes, these check downs, these easy passes. If it was that simple, wouldn't defenses be able to scheme against that, Trevor? Wouldn't defenses be in position? And here's a guy that last year, again, 77.4% completion, 45 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. This guy, he wasn't lacking in any in any way as far as that is concerned. You'd think, geez, if guys were out there, they'd be out there playing press man because he's always just going quick to the outside. You know what I mean, or something to that effect. They're batting down balls. His completion percentage is going down. He's throwing interceptions. No, just the opposite. This guy was still able to flourish in the so-called easy offense that defenses should be able to scheme against, and they couldn't. So there's a lot of upside. Also, you have a guy that at Auburn, I think, tried to play that hero ball and realized he had to change his game and was able to do so. So he kind of has the ability to be kind of a multitude of players, I guess you could say. We've seen 2 different Bo Nixes in his career already in college. So boy, we need to wrap it up and get out of here. But these guys have been dropping some amazing comments, and again, there you go. Fastest to 100 wins. Thank you. Not 700 wins again. Oh boy, that was
been an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Appreciate you updating me on that one. Yeah, Wilson was the fastest to 100. There's something to be said, man. Again, when it comes to quarterbacks in the first round, about 1/3 of them work out. If you're lucky, the numbers get really good. About half of them work out, right? That are taken in the first round. Right now, we're looking at 2 of the 6, maybe 3 of the 6 of these guys working out. Let's face it, we might be waiting a long time when it comes to what we see in Atlanta. So who knows when we'll figure that whole situation out. That's a conversation for another day, though, buddy. Man, we're coming right up on an hour. I'm going to hit just a few comments just really quick before we get out of here. I like this one. Bo Nix has more brains. I appreciate that. Clayton comes in and says, hey, guys, like he always does, smash that like button and share, guys. We appreciate that as well. Michael Ronquillo, we saw reports of this. Philip Rivers was very impressed with Bo Nix. Kind of gave the nod to Sean Payton saying, yeah, go ahead, pick this guy, man. It's the right guy. I only hope that Philip Rivers, former Charger, isn't setting us up. No, I'm just kidding. Right? No, he was working with a few different quarterbacks and really liked what he saw in Bo Nix. I think he gave some great advice. Aussie Wombat is coming in saying Nix is the opposite of Russell Wilson in a lot of ways. I think you're absolutely right, and I think that's why we saw the Payton and Wilson relationship not work out the way we'd like to. Don't worry, Aussie. I appreciate you coming in. He's saying he's sorry he's late, but hey, we appreciate you coming in all the way across the ocean over there in Australia, Western Australia, as a matter of fact. So appreciate you coming in. Even if you're coming in late, go ahead and hey, maybe rewind, watch this whole pod over on YouTube or over on Facebook. I promise we'll get out there on Apple Podcasts and Spotify soon, but not out there yet, guys. So check us out on YouTube. We'd love to see more shares, and subscribe over on that YouTube channel as well. Take it. So please, appreciate you guys and all the support you give. Would love to do that as well. So great pod, guys. Great conversation from the Posse. Absolutely, Roy. Posse was jumping the night. You guys were fantastic tonight. Let's wrap it up with some final comments, some final thoughts, man, and let's get on out of here. Again, we have a fantastic Colorado Rockies settle the scores coming up on the Rocky Mountain Sports Network here, 8:30, maybe a few minutes late with the way that we ran this evening. So what do you got for us before we get out of here, Trevor?
Yeah, no, I mean, again, they just want to thank all of our posse, first and foremost, everybody who was able to join us tonight. Again, a great Friday night. What a time to be a Broncos fan right now. Amazing Friday night. Love everybody being here, and all of our new people that join the posse. I think you guys are going to love the show. Again, we bring new content all the time, so can't wait to interact with you guys more. But just big shout out to our posse and Roundup royalty. You guys are absolutely amazing. This is why we do this, honestly. And it's the best time of the week for us when we do these podcasts. My favorite time of the week. Get to talk Broncos and get to break down this roster. We will have time to break down this roster again. Hopefully going into next week on Friday or something, we can get that defense side of the ball out there for you, going a little bit more in-depth discussion with the roster. We've got a little bit now until rookie training camp rookie mini camp, comes out. Yeah. Not training camp, not yet. But no, I just want to thank everybody, and can't wait to see you guys on Tuesday for another great episode of Denver Bronco Roundup.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Again, thank you to everybody that jumped in this evening, man. A lot of new names. We saw Sean Ward. That was a name that I hadn't seen before. Aussie Wombat, appreciate you jumping over. I haven't seen you on a Friday night. Saw you through the draft show a ton. So appreciate you jumping over here on a Friday night. Miranda, thank you so much. Been part of the show for a couple of weeks now, and bringing along some friends. So got to go security guard at the casino. Well, we appreciate Miranda. Stay safe out there, and stay safe, Kenny, out there in the dark with no phones, no computers, no lights. Hope you're doing well out there as well. Stay safe, Broncos country. Appreciate you guys jumping in here again. Denver Bronco Roundup every Tuesday, every Friday at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We got Settle the Scores. It comes on at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. We've got great articles coming out at Rocky Mountain Sports Network website, so check that out as well. What else we got? We got Morgan Trinkets, our fantastic sponsor. If you're looking for any of your Southwest jewelry, pottery, or estate gold at wholesale prices, Morgan Trinkets over at Facebook is the place to go. But most importantly, guys, thank you so much in the posse. Again, fantastic show. You guys were amazing. Lit up the chat board, but we got to get running. So check us out on Tuesday. We'll be back at you 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, but we're going to sign off like we always do. Again, make sure you keep your feet in your stirrups, your guns in your holsters, and the Broncos in your heart. Until next time, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We're out of here, guys. Have a good night.